Hello dear students, this is Dr. Shabana Begum, Associate Professor in Zoology, Maharani Science College for Women, Bangalore, presenting a talk on the topic Primary and Secondary Productivity in an Ecosystem pertaining to BSc Zoology 5th semester under the paper entitled Environmental Biology and Ecology. Students, in my previous lecture on energy flow through an ecosystem and the two laws of thermodynamics, I had discussed about the definition and importance of energy, the flow of light or solar energy through various trophic levels of food chain, the two laws of thermodynamics, 10% law proposed by Lindemann in the year 1942, energy pyramids and energy flow models. Today, before speaking on the topics, the type of productivity, let me give you a gist of the concept of productivity which can be used to explain the laws of thermodynamics. In fact, the concept of productivity is a good example to explain the energy flow through an ecosystem. The content of this topic is the introduction to productivity, types of productivity, and the environmental factors affecting productivity. And the learning objectives is to define the terms primary and secondary productivity and to explicit different types of primary productivity. As you all know that an ecosystem comprises of producers, consumers and decomposers, and the steps involved in productivity are the utilization of solar energy by producers for photosynthesis, consumption of organic matter by consumers, both the herbivores and the carnivores, and the decomposition of organic matter into inorganic substances. So in my lecture on light as an abiotic factor, you have learned that the sun is the main source of energy for the ecosystem, and the solar energy that reaches the earth gets modified as explained under session 4, that is the light as an abiotic factor. So of the total energy reaching the earth, 34% is reflected, 10% is held back by ozone layer, and the remaining 56% reaches the earth's surface, of which green plants are able to utilize only about 1.5% for the manufacture of food by the process of photosynthesis. With this background, let me discuss the concept and the types of productivity in an ecosystem. What is productivity? So in ecology, productivity refers to the rate of formation of biomass in the ecosystem, while the biomass is the total mass in a unit area at the time of measurement of living or previously living organisms within a trophic level. Fine. So you can always define productivity of an ecosystem as the rate of production of organic matter which gets accumulated at any given time. The ecosystems have characteristic amounts of biomass at each trophic level. For example, in an ecosystem, the primary producers account for a biomass of 4 grams per meter square, while the primary consumers exhibit a biomass of 21 grams per meter square. So let us discuss about the types of productivity. So there are two types of productivity, namely the primary productivity and the secondary productivity. What is primary productivity? So here is the definition. So primary productivity refers to the generation of biomass from autotrophic organisms such as green plants, higher macrophytes, phytoplanktons, and some photosynthetic bacteria. Fine. So you can always define it as the rate of production of organic matter. Fine. We can define it as the rate at which radiant energy is stored by photosynthetic organisms. So photosynthesis is the primary tool for the creation of organic matter from inorganic compounds such as carbon dioxide and water. Fine. So this primary productivity can be divided into two aspects: the gross primary productivity and the net primary productivity. The gross primary productivity, which is called as GPP, is the total energy stored in the food materials synthesized by the green plants, or total rate of photosynthesis including the organic matter used up in the respiration during total photosynthesis or total assimilation. This depends upon the photosynthetic activity and environmental factors, and also it depends upon the chlorophyll content. An example of gross primary productivity is the Silver Springs aquatic ecosystem, where the total energy accumulated by the primary producers was shown to be 20,810 kilocalories per meter square per year. The second type of primary productivity is the net primary productivity. Fine. So the net primary productivity, also called as NPP, is the energy that remains in the primary producers after accounting for the organism's respiration and heat loss. The net primary productivity is also called apparent photosynthesis or net assimilation. And it is equal to the gross primary productivity minus energy lost in respiration. So you can say NPP is equals to GPP minus energy lost during respiration. The net primary productivity is the energy stored in the plants, and this energy serves as food for the animals that feed on plants, that is, the consumers. It is measured as the amount of organic matter produced in a community in a given time. Annually, over 170 billion tons of net primary productivity occurs over the entire biosphere. There are a number of methods to measure primary production. These are called as the harvest method, wherein the amount of grains or seeds are measured. Oxygen production method. Here, the amount of oxygen evolved is generally used for measuring primary production of aquatic plants. Carbon dioxide assimilation method, where the amount of carbon dioxide utilized for photosynthesis is measured. The chlorophyll method, where the chlorophyll content is measured, and the radioactive method, wherein the radioactive isotopes are used and their uptake is measured to estimate productivity. Now it's time to learn about secondary productivity. So, secondary productivity is the accumulation of energy at the consumer levels. It keeps moving from one organism to another, unlike primary productivity. This process occurs as a result of organic materials being transferred between various trophic levels. The secondary productivity is also referred to as the rate of increase in the biomass of heterotrophs. The organisms such as animals, fungi, bacteria, and numerous protists influence secondary production. The secondary productivity is not divided into gross and net productivity. So, Eugene P. Odom used the term assimilation rather than production at consumers' level. Some of the environmental factors which affect the productivity are the solar radiation and temperature. Next, the moisture, that is the leaf water potential, soil moisture and precipitation fluctuation and transpiration. Mineral nutrition, where there is uptake of minerals from the soil, rhizosphere effects, fire effects, salinity, heavy metals, nitrogen method, metabolism, etc. So then biotic activities, where there is grazing, above ground herbivores, below ground herbivores, predators and parasites, diseases of primary producers. Finally, the impact of human population. The pollutions of different sorts, ionizing radiations like atomic explosions are some of the factors which affect the productivity of an ecosystem. Here's a slide which will give you information about the three fundamental concepts of productivity, such as the standing crop, materials removed, and production rate. What is standing crop? So, standing crop is the abundance of the organisms existing in the area at any one time. It may be expressed in terms of number of individuals, as biomass of organisms, as energy content, or in some other suitable terms. Measurement of standing crop reveals the concentration of individuals in the various populations of ecosystem. Next concept is the materials removed. So the second concept of productivity is the materials removed from the area per unit time. It includes the yield to man, organisms removed from the ecosystem by migration, and the materials withdrawn as organic deposit. The third type is the production rate. So here the third concept of productivity is, as just mentioned, production rate. It is the rate at which the growth processes are going forward within the area. The amount of material formed by each link in the food chain per unit of time per unit area or volume is the production rate. Finally, the outcome of the study. So, the productivity of the primary producers is especially important in any ecosystem, as they bring energy to other living organisms by photoautotrophy. It refers to rate at which energy is accumulated by green plants in unit time in the form of organic substances that can be used as food. The productivity in terrestrial ecosystem is influenced by numerous factors such as carbon dioxide, light, temperature, water, moisture, nutrients, and soil texture. Lastly, the most productive ecosystems are those with optimal levels of such factors, ultimately to maximize photosynthesis. With this, I will end up my talk on this topic, and just to know whether you have understood the concept and types of productivities, I want you to answer a few multiple choice questions, that is the MCQs. The first one being, the productivity of an ecosystem is affected by, the options are A, availability of nutrients, B, sunlight and temperature, C, rainfall, and D is all the above. The answer being D, that is all the above. That means the productivity of an ecosystem is affected by the availability of nutrients, the sunlight and temperature, and rainfall. The next question, the rate at which food energy is assimilated at the trophic level of consumers is known as, the options are A, gross primary productivity, B, secondary productivity, C, net primary productivity, and D is none of the above. So the answer being the option B, that's called secondary productivity. Next question, the net primary productivity is, option A, energy loss due to respiration, B, gross primary productivity, C is A minus B, and D is B minus A. The answer being the option D, B minus A, that is the gross primary productivity minus the energy loss due to respiration is equal to the net primary productivity. The next question, the concept of productivity is a good example to understand. Options are A, energy flow through an ecosystem, B, trophic niche, C, habitat niche, and D, none of the above. The answer being the answer option A, energy flow through an ecosystem. The next question, the efficiency rate of any ecosystem mainly depends upon the production rates of its A, option, decomposers, B, producers and consumers, C, food chain, and D, none of the above. And the answer being the option B, that is producers and consumers. So finally, these are few references. You please go through them for clarifying your doubts and further study. Thank you.